Welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast. You're listening to the next episode of the podcast, and today we're going to focus on building a construction business and, what it takes, some successes, some failures, and some stories from an actual business owner. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton. Today, my guest is Mishell Cox. Mishell, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you.
So why don't we do this? Let's start with, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us a little bit about your business. Introduce yourself to people.
Absolutely. So, my name is Mishell. We own, and I say we because it's myself and my husband, Cox Roofing. We have about 4 different locations. We have 2 in Indiana, 1 in Florida, and 1 in Colorado. We've been in business for over 12 years. My hobbies are flying hot air balloons, which is not very common, and working out. What else?
All right. So where did you start? Did you start in Indiana, Florida, or Colorado?
Indiana. Indiana is the headquarters.
Okay. So what led you to starting a business 12 years ago doing roofing?
Well, I was in business school and my husband was working for another roofing company. And eventually he figured out that he wanted to own his own company. So together, with him having the construction knowledge and me having the business knowledge, we joined forces and started the company. Fun fact, I did not want to be part of it at the beginning. I'm like, hey, I'm going to help you start this, get it all together, and then you're on your own. So for 2-3 years, when we started the company, everything went well. And once I noticed that he was good to go, I'm like, all right, this is time for me to leave. I left for about a year and a half, and that's when he's like, you got to come back. And my condition was, if I come back, it's going to be my thing and it's going to be my way. And he agreed. So here we are.
So were you married when you were in business school and you started the company?
We were not.
Oh, okay. So how did that play into the whole you wanting to leave?
It was more like he had his own thing and I had my own. I was pursuing one of my degrees. I have 3 degrees, one in marketing, another one in business administration, and another one in international business. Was to at some point, yes, own a business or be part of a big corporation. So I wanted to join the pharmaceutical business, which I did. And eventually, that's when he's like, hey, if you will apply everything that you know and you're doing on the pharmaceutical company to the construction company, we will be so successful. And he convinced me. And eventually, well, a little before that, that's when we got engaged. And I'm like, well, it makes sense.
Yeah. So it's interesting that he got you involved in the business before you're married, because that's an incredibly high level of stress to be a business owner.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you're trying to figure out a relationship on top of that. So
Yes.
what was it about the construction that made you want to give up the pharmaceutical world?
It made me realize because I remember specifically when I was taking a business class, I used to have 2 friends from my class. They were your typical girls that like to dress up and get pretty and all that stuff. And they wanted to be part of big corporations, right? Their dream was to work for a huge company. And when they asked me, hey, what does your boyfriend do for a living? I'm like, hey, construction. And immediately their face was like, ew, construction. So for me, it was like, they have no idea what goes into a construction company. One, they can make a lot of money. 2, you're not going to physically be doing the work yourself. Not all the time. Some people do, which is fine. But it has a whole system behind. It has marketing. It has operational. It has and for me, it was more into like, okay, I'm going to try to figure this out myself. And roofing can be sexy. Why not? you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like typically people that own a business fall into one of 2 camps. One camp is they're super passionate about the product,
Right.
and the other camp is they look at it as a financial opportunity.
Yeah. It's a business.
It's a business. So you're more at the financial opportunity?
Well, for me, it was more like, how can I make this business successful? He is, like I say, he's more on the construction level, and he's very creative. That also helps. I have to give him credit for that. and together it was like, how can we make this cool? How can we make it fun? Because I mean, nobody cares about roofing until they need it. Let's be honest.
Right. It's not glamorous.
It's not glamorous, and also for us, it's like it's not. It wasn't just the financial side, but it was as well the moral side behind how can I create opportunities for people, and looking at the opportunities that the roofing business has, it was more like I can provide opportunities for people to work, for their families to succeed in life, to move up. I mean, I've had employees who were in Indiana and eventually wanted to move up, and they helped me opening the branch in Colorado. So they were growing together. So it was just many components on why we're doing what we're doing.
So when you started the business, you were in business school or you had the degree?
I was still in business school.
All right. So what things did they not teach you in school that if you had known would have made your life a little bit easier at the start?
That's a good question. Towards the end, I went to Kelly School of Business here in Indiana, and towards the end, we have what we call the I-Core project, where they put together people from different majors, marketing and finance and operational. So they put us together, and together as a team, we developed what is a fictitious company online. And I remember, I'm like, with me being marketing, I'm like, yes, let's spend all the money. Let's just put more money so we can get more business and this and that. And eventually, the operational department couldn't keep up with my decisions. And that's when I saw myself in a conflict with the financial guy. Was like, why do you spend that much money? Blah, blah, blah. So I got to see a little bit of it. But when I finally was in charge and I'm like, okay, I have this much money. How do I make the company successful? I remember at the beginning, I'm like, we have to do branding. So I started ordering cups and this and that.
Yeah.
And my husband was like, why do you spend so much money? I'm like, because we need it.
Right.
Well, yeah, well, you spend that much money. Now we don't have money for the SEOs or for the website or for whatever. So for me, it was like, it wasn't fake money. It's actually real money that I'm playing with today. And if I don't make smart decisions, um, I'm not just going to get a bad grade. We might have to go bankrupt. We didn't. Ended up being okay.
So you're in business school and you're learning about trade-offs, which obviously, like you said, there's a lot more safety margin because who cares? You get a B or a C versus real life. How big a mistake did you have to make before you caught on to the trade-offs?
Financially.
Yeah, I mean, what? So I don't want to get all super deep, but I know when I worked for a big company. I worked for Coke, and I made actually a $35,000 mistake. That was my that was my big mistake at Coke that got me into a lot of trouble with my boss. But it taught me a lot of lessons,
Right. Right.
and so I guess when you think back, was there a decision, an individual decision you made that was a bad decision, but that's helped you?
Yes, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I made was hiring people. When hiring people, you want to hire the best talent that you can find, right? And my biggest mistake that cost me a lot of money at the first couple years was thinking that whoever I have found was the only people that I was going to be able to find. And I will put all my money, all my resources, all my time into these people that were not necessarily looking to better themselves or not looking for an opportunity. It was more like, okay, what can I get without having to work that hard? So, and going back to your previous questions, I wish that schools will teach a little bit of law, which is fundamental in every business. I didn't have contracts with my employees. I didn't even have contracts with my clients. Now it sounds so obvious that that's something that you need, but it costs me so much money, because employees will be like, okay, I want to get paid for everything that I ever even touched. And I'm like, no, it has to be until you complete everything that you get paid. Show me where it says that. So at that point, I had to pay them money just to keep things peaceful. And just like you said, my mistakes cost me thousands of dollars, but anytime a mistake costs me money, I'm like, I'm going to learn from it. The ins, the outs, everything about it. So that, and clients the same way that did not want to pay their bills after the project was completed. And I'm like, okay, well, you have to pay me. Show me the contract. Oh, I don't have one. Okay, then I don't have to pay. So mistakes like that. I mean, we're talking about thousands of dollars. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but it was totally worth it because now I have all my contracts in place and I'm still learning. It's not, I mean, it's not over yet. There are different situations every day that I'm like, that has never happened before. You know, when you're a business owner, you're expected to be a lawyer, marketing expert, a roofer yourself, you know? So every day is a learning process for me.
Yeah, that's the contracts thing is a huge issue for most companies because they don't want to feel like they're entering into a contractual relationship with their employee who they're supposed to trust, but you got to. Like
Right.
you don't have a choice.
And I have learned that even one word can change everything. So, and everybody feels like law is easy, right? Hey, why not? I can write my contract myself. Why would I pay a lawyer $2,000? And I learned the hard way. They know what they're doing, and there's a reason why they charge so much money. So just give it to a lawyer and let him do the thing.
Well, and the one piece of advice that's come up before was that you should never look for a cheap accountant or a cheap attorney.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's another big mistake. And now that you mention it, I was one of those that was, but why am I going to pay my accountant that much money when I can do it myself? So I found an accountant and it was really cheap. And after looking at all the damages and all the things that they did wrong, my losses were up to $1 million.
Oof.
So, yeah, it was that was probably my biggest mistake hiring them. But to be fair, I didn't know how bad they were gonna be.
Right. You can't. Right. So when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, listen, I'm thinking about starting my own business," and what do you tell them?
Good luck. Good luck. Have fun. you know, it used to be a touchy subject at the beginning because it's like, hey, they're just trying to learn what they can and then they start their own businesses. It has happened to me already about 3 times. The people that I train start their own company. And I had to change that mindset a little bit. You can't be angry. You can't be upset. The sun comes out for everyone. There are plenty of roofs for everyone in the U.S., if not in the world. And it wouldn't be fair for me to want to stop people from becoming successful as well, right? My only rules now is don't steal from me, don't take my clients, and don't take my people. Because I've had both where I have people that leave just clean and they're like, hey, I think I can do it. Okay, I'm not worried about them being my competition anymore because if they're just starting now and I am 12, 13 years invested and my husband has been in roofing for 20 something years, you're going to have to catch up to me.
Right.
Things look easy and we make it look so easy, but it doesn't mean they are. Just because it takes me, I don't know, a doctor, it takes him 10 minutes to do something, it doesn't mean it didn't take them years to learn how to do it.
Right.
So for me, it's like, go ahead, good luck. It's not easy, and you're going to see it, and perhaps you're going to get a different view now that you are the owner and not the employee. So it doesn't bother me as long as they're honest.
Yeah. How about somebody that's outside the company that's not that you don't that's not in your company, but somebody who's a friend who comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm going to leave my megacorp job and I'm going to go start my own thing." What do you say to them?
I think that that has to be the number one advice is if they're married, talk to your wife or talk to your husband and make sure that they are on board. This is something that is going to take most of your time and perhaps most of your money. And if they don't agree with what you're doing or they're not on the same page, chances are you're going to end up divorced. Just like you mentioned at the beginning, this is not something that is easy, let alone when you are with someone. It depends the size of the company. have friends that are like, hey, I just want to get like 5, 10 jobs a year and that's it. Okay. And I've had those friends that are like, I want to be a multi-million-dollar roofing company. Well, that's going to require a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, a lot of time off. Make sure that you're okay at that point in your life where you are willing to give up multiple things to get what you want.
Yeah. If 2024 Mishell could go back and sit next to 2011 Mishell, the night before you open this business, the night before you get involved, and you say, hey, listen, everything turns out all right, everything's good, but here's what you should focus on first. What's the focused on first thing? What's the one thing that you should do first?
I think that if I can talk to Mishell back in the day, I will let her know that it is good that she's trying to learn multiple things at the same time, but that she doesn't have to. Maybe she should focus more on learning how to manage people and hiring talent. Um, because yes, a company in general doesn't matter if it's roofing, if you sell coffee, retail, whatever. You don't need to know everything. You just have to learn how to manage people, and you have to find people that are better at things than you are, because that's the goal. And back in the day, my goal was to become really good at marketing, really good at accounting, really good at roofing. And then I realized that I don't have to. There are people that actually do that and enjoy that. Just become a better manager for them.
Yeah. If you can multiply yourself with outside talent, that's huge.
Yes.
Is there any specific advice you would give somebody who is thinking about starting a business or is new in business that we haven't covered? Anything that you would say, hey, here's something you really should think about?
I think that when you own a business, roofing, not roofing as well, you have to do it for the right reasons. Obviously, everybody works for money. Nobody works for hobby. I don't think so. And if you do, then good for you. Um, but you have to do it for the right reasons, because I've seen it over and over with multiple companies, competitors, that all they care about is the money. And the clients won't stick around, employees won't stick around. And I'm a huge believer of karma and the universe, call it whatever, God. And when you don't do things for the right reasons, it's not fruitful. It just doesn't go well. So just make sure your reasons behind everything you're doing are the right ones, and you're always looking into being good for people and being grateful for everything that comes your way. And I think you'll be successful.
Well, those are two great pieces of advice. So the first thing I heard you say was first thing to focus on is multiplying yourself with people that do the niche product or niche service that you need. And the second one is it's always the right time to do the right thing, which I mean, that's come up multiple times. So I love both of those pieces of advice. I think that's a quick 20 minutes that's got some actual real lessons in it. So I think we can wrap up there. I want to remind our listeners that they can find more information about Mishell and her company over at defaultprofitable.com. And if you're listening now, there's 3 ways you can help us grow. Leave a review. You can hit subscribe, and you can share an episode with somebody that you think would benefit. Mishell, thanks for being a great guest.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and for our listeners, we'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.